The Natural Talents of Donald Trump. Chapter 1. Foundations of a Leader. Donald John Trump was born into a family that epitomized the American dream. His father, Fred Trump, was a real estate developer who had built a substantial fortune by constructing affordable housing in New York City's outer boroughs. The Trumps were well off, but Fred instilled a strong work ethic in his children, teaching them the value of money and the importance of perseverance. Growing up in Queens, young Donald was a rambunctious and assertive child. His parents enrolled him in the Q Forest School, but his behavior eventually led them to send him to the New York Military Academy, NYMA, at the age of 13. At NYMA, Trump thrived in the structured environment, excelling in both academics and athletics. He was known for his leadership qualities and was appointed captain of the Cadet Corps during his senior year. The military academy experience ingrained in him a sense of discipline and order that would later be reflected in his business dealings and political style. After graduating from NYMA in 1964, Trump attended Fordham University for 2 years before transferring to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Wharton was renowned for its business program, and Trump saw it as the perfect place to hone his entrepreneurial skills. He graduated in 1968 with a degree in economics. Ready to make his mark on the world, Trump's entry into the business world was facilitated by his father's connections and expertise. Fred Trump was a significant influence on Donald, providing not only financial backing, but also valuable lessons in real estate and construction. Donald joined Elizabeth Trump and Son, which he later renamed the Trump Organization. Under his leadership, the company expanded its operations, moving from outer borough projects to high-profile developments in Manhattan. One of Trump's first major projects was the transformation of the Commodore Hotel into the Grand Hyatt. This venture, completed in 1980, was a turning point in Trump's career. It showcased his ability to take risks, negotiate complex deals, and market properties effectively. The success of the Grand Hyatt project established Trump as a major player in the New York real estate scene. Trump's business strategy was characterized by a combination of boldness and showmanship. He understood the power of branding and used it to his advantage, putting his name on his properties to create a sense of prestige and exclusivity. This approach not only increased the value of his developments, but also cemented his reputation as a savvy businessman. In addition to real estate, Trump ventured into other areas, including casinos, sports, and entertainment. He acquired the Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, turned it into a private club, and developed several Atlantic City casinos. These ventures were not without their challenges, but Trump's resilience and ability to bounce back from setbacks were key to his continued success. As Trump's business empire grew, so did his public profile. He became a fixture in New York society and a regular presence in the media. His flair for self-promotion and his larger-than-life persona made him a natural fit for the world of entertainment. This culminated in the launch of The Apprentice in 2004, a reality TV show that further boosted his fame and showcased his management style to a national audience. Trump's early years and business ventures laid a strong foundation for his future political career. The skills he developed in negotiation, branding, and media relations would prove invaluable as he navigated the complex landscape of American politics. From his disciplined upbringing at NYMA to his bold real estate deals in Manhattan, each experience shaped Trump into the leader he would become. Chapter 2. Business Acumen. Building an Empire. Donald Trump's business career is a testament to his natural talent for identifying opportunities and turning them into profitable ventures. From his early days in his father's real estate business to his rise as a global brand, Trump's business acumen has been a driving force behind his success. After graduating from the Wharton School, Trump joined his father's company, Elizabeth Trump and Son, which primarily focused on middle-income housing in Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. Eager to make his mark, Trump set his sights on Manhattan, where he saw greater potential for high-profile developments. One of his first major projects was the renovation of the Commodore Hotel. The Commodore Hotel, located near Grand Central Terminal, was a dilapidated property when Trump decided to transform it. He negotiated a complex deal involving tax abatements and financing from the Hyatt Corporation, showcasing his ability to navigate intricate financial arrangements. The hotel's grand reopening as the Grand Hyatt in 1980 was a resounding success, marking Trump's arrival on the Manhattan real estate scene. Following the Grand Hyatt, Trump embarked on several ambitious projects, including the construction of Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. Completed in 1983, Trump Tower became an iconic symbol of luxury and extravagance. The mixed-use skyscraper featured high-end retail spaces, offices, and residential units, all bearing the Trump name. This project demonstrated Trump's flair for marketing and branding, as well as his ability to attract high-profile tenants and buyers. Trump's success in real estate was not limited to New York City. He expanded his empire to include properties in other major cities and international locations. Trump International Hotel and Tower in Chicago, Trump Tower in Istanbul, and Trump World Tower in Seoul are just a few examples of his global reach. Each project was marked by the same attention to detail and emphasis on luxury that had become his trademark. In addition to real estate, Trump ventured into other industries, including gaming, sports, and entertainment. His Atlantic City casinos, such as the Trump Taj Mahal, Trump Plaza, and Trump Marina, were major investments that showcased his willingness to take risks. While the casino business was fraught with challenges, including multiple bankruptcies, Trump's resilience and ability to negotiate with creditors allowed him to retain control and continue his ventures. Trump's involvement in sports included ownership of the New Jersey Generals, a team in the short-lived United States Football League (USFL). Although the league ultimately folded, Trump's foray into sports highlighted his willingness to diversify his investments and explore new opportunities. One of Trump's most significant ventures outside of real estate was his foray into entertainment with the launch of The Apprentice, premiering in 2004. The reality TV show featured contestants competing for a position within Trump's organization. The show was a ratings hit and solidified Trump's status as a household name. His catchphrase, "You're fired," became synonymous with the show and further enhanced his public persona. Throughout his business career, Trump faced numerous challenges and controversies. His aggressive approach to business, including his use of leverage and debt, often drew criticism. However, his ability to bounce back from setbacks and his knack for turning adverse situations to his advantage were key to his enduring success. Trump's business acumen was characterized by several key traits: a keen eye for opportunity, a bold approach to risk-taking, and a talent for branding and marketing. These skills not only built his business empire, but also laid the groundwork for his future political career. By leveraging his business success and media presence, Trump was able to craft a powerful image that resonated with many Americans, ultimately propelling him to the highest office in the land. Chapter 3: The Art of Communication, Mastering the Media. Donald Trump's rise to prominence was not only due to his business acumen, but also his mastery of communication and media. His ability to command attention and convey his message effectively has been a cornerstone of his career, both in business and politics. From the early days of his real estate ventures, Trump understood the power of media exposure. He cultivated relationships with journalists and made sure his projects received extensive coverage. Whether it was the grand opening of Trump Tower or the launch of a new casino, Trump knew how to generate buzz and keep his name in the headlines. This media savvy helped build his brand and establish him as a prominent figure in New York City. Trump's flair for communication was evident in his public appearances and interviews. He had a knack for making bold statements and controversial remarks that garnered attention. His confidence and charisma made him a compelling figure, and he was frequently invited to appear on television shows and news programs. Trump's ability to stay in the public eye and shape the narrative around his ventures was a key factor in his success. One of the most significant platforms for Trump's communication skills was his reality TV show, The Apprentice. The show not only showcased Trump's business acumen, but also his ability to engage and entertain an audience. Each episode featured dramatic boardroom confrontations and high-stakes decisions, with Trump at the center as the decisive leader. The Apprentice was a ratings success and further cemented Trump's status as a media personality. Trump's transition from business to politics highlighted his adeptness at using media to his advantage. When he announced his candidacy for president in 2015, many political analysts were skeptical of his chances. However, Trump's unconventional campaign style and his use of social media platforms like Twitter allowed him to connect directly with voters in a way that traditional politicians could not. Trump's Twitter account became a powerful tool for communicating his message and rallying his base. He used it to bypass traditional media channels and speak directly to the American people. His tweets were often provocative and controversial, generating widespread media coverage and keeping him at the center of public discourse. This direct communication style resonated with many voters who felt disconnected from the political establishment. During his campaign and presidency, Trump held numerous rallies where he showcased his skills as a public speaker. His rallies were characterized by their energetic and combative tone, with Trump often veering off script to address the crowd. These events allowed him to connect with his supporters on a personal level and reinforce his image as a political outsider fighting for the average American. Trump's ability to dominate the media landscape extended beyond social media and rallies. He was a frequent subject of news coverage, both positive and negative. His actions and statements were scrutinized and debated endlessly, ensuring that he remained a central figure in the national conversation. Trump's understanding of the media's need for sensational stories allowed him to control the narrative and keep himself in the spotlight. Despite facing criticism for his combative relationship with the press, Trump used the media to his advantage. He coined the term fake news to discredit unfavorable coverage and rallied his supporters against what he perceived as biased reporting. This strategy not only mobilized his base, but also shifted the media landscape, forcing news outlets to grapple with the challenge of covering a president who defied traditional norms. Trump's communication skills were not limited to his interactions with the media and the public. He also demonstrated an ability to negotiate and persuade behind closed doors. Whether it was securing deals for his business ventures or navigating the complexities of international diplomacy, Trump's assertive and direct communication style was a key asset. In summary, Donald Trump's mastery of communication and media has been a defining feature of his career. From his early days in real estate to his time in the White House, his ability to command attention, shape narratives, and connect with audiences has played a crucial role in his success. Trump's media savvy and communication skills have allowed him to build a powerful brand and maintain a dominant presence in American public life. Chapter 4: Entering the Political Arena. The decision to run. Donald Trump's decision to enter the political arena was a turning point not only in his life, but also in American politics. His unconventional approach and outsider status resonated with a significant portion of the electorate, propelling him to a historic victory in the 2016 presidential election. This chapter explores the motivations, strategies, and key moments that led to Trump's decision to run for president. The idea of Donald Trump running for political office was not entirely new. Over the years, he had flirted with the notion of entering politics, often making headlines with speculative comments about a potential presidential bid. However, it wasn't until 2015 that he took the plunge announcing his candidacy for the Republican nomination in a speech at Trump Tower. Several factors influenced Trump's decision to run for president. First and foremost, he was deeply dissatisfied with the direction of the country. He believed that America was losing its competitive edge and that the political establishment was failing to address the needs of ordinary citizens. Trump's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," encapsulated his desire to restore what he saw as America's lost greatness. Trump's decision was also driven by a sense of timing and opportunity. The political climate in 2015 was marked by widespread discontent with the status quo. Many Americans felt alienated by the political establishment and were eager for change. Trump's outsider status and business background positioned him as a candidate who could shake up the system and bring a fresh perspective to Washington. Announcing his candidacy on June 16, 2015, Trump delivered a speech that set the tone for his campaign. Speaking from the lobby of Trump Tower, he outlined his vision for America and criticized the current state of affairs. His speech was bold and unapologetic, touching on issues such as immigration, trade, and national security. Trump's direct and unfiltered communication style immediately set him apart from other candidates. The decision to run for president also involved assembling a campaign team that could navigate the complexities of a national election. Trump surrounded himself with advisors and strategists who understood his vision and could execute his campaign plan. Key figures such as Corey Lewandowski, Paul Manafort, and later Steve Bannon played crucial roles in shaping and guiding the campaign. Trump's campaign strategy was marked by its unorthodox approach. He eschewed traditional political norms and relied heavily on his skills as a communicator and marketer. His rallies became a central component of his campaign, allowing him to connect directly with voters and generate enthusiasm. These events were characterized by their energetic and combative tone, with Trump often delivering off-the-cuff remarks that resonated with his supporters. Social media played a pivotal role in Trump's campaign. His use of Twitter allowed him to communicate directly with millions of followers and bypass traditional media channels. Trump's tweets were often provocative and controversial, generating extensive media coverage and keeping him in the public eye. This direct line of communication helped him build a strong and loyal base of supporters. One of the defining moments of Trump's campaign was his performance in the Republican primary debates. He emerged as a dominant force, using his charisma and rhetorical skills to overshadow his opponents. Trump's ability to command attention and deliver memorable one-liners made him a formidable presence on the debate stage. His confrontational style and willingness to challenge the political establishment resonated with many voters. As the primary season progressed, Trump continued to defy expectations. He won key primary contests and amassed a substantial delegate lead, eventually securing the Republican nomination. His success in the primaries was attributed to his ability to tap into the frustrations and aspirations of a broad coalition of voters, including working-class Americans, disenchanted conservatives, and independents. Trump's general election campaign against Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton was marked by its intensity and divisiveness. The campaign was characterized by heated rhetoric, controversies, and a constant media frenzy. Despite facing numerous challenges, including allegations of misconduct and criticism of his policy positions, Trump remained resilient and focused on his message. On November 8, 2016, Donald Trump achieved a historic victory, winning the presidency with 304 electoral votes to Clinton's 227. His victory was a testament to his ability to connect with voters and leverage his unique talents to overcome formidable odds. Trump's campaign had successfully tapped into a deep vein of discontent and desire for change, reshaping the political landscape in the process. In conclusion, Donald Trump's decision to run for president was a bold and calculated move that capitalized on his natural talents and the prevailing political climate. His unorthodox approach media savvy, and ability to connect with voters were key factors in his success. Trump's entry into the political arena marked the beginning of a new and transformative era in American politics, one that continues to shape the nation's trajectory. Chapter 5: The Campaign Trail, Strategies and Tactics. Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign was a masterclass in unconventional strategy and tactical innovation. His approach defied traditional political norms and leveraged his strengths in communication, branding, and media manipulation. This chapter delves into the key strategies and tactics that defined Trump's campaign and contributed to his remarkable victory. One of the cornerstones of Trump's campaign was his ability to harness the power of media. From the outset, Trump understood that media coverage was crucial to his success. His announcement speech, delivered in the lobby of Trump Tower, was designed to generate maximum media attention. The speech's controversial content, including his remarks on immigration, ensured extensive coverage and set the tone for his campaign. Trump's media strategy was characterized by his willingness to dominate the news cycle. He made bold and provocative statements that guaranteed coverage and kept him in the public eye. This approach was effective in a crowded primary field, where standing out from the competition was essential. Trump's ability to generate headlines and drive the conversation allowed him to overshadow his opponents. Social media played a pivotal role in Trump's campaign. His use of Twitter was particularly influential, allowing him to communicate directly with millions of followers. Trump's tweets were often provocative and newsworthy, ensuring that they were covered extensively by the media. This direct line of communication helped him bypass traditional media filters and connect with voters on a personal level. Trump's campaign rallies were another key element of his strategy. These events were carefully choreographed to maximize energy and enthusiasm. Trump's speeches at rallies were characterized by their informal and spontaneous style, often deviating from prepared remarks. This approach resonated with supporters who appreciated his authenticity and willingness to speak his mind. The rallies also served as a platform for Trump to test and refine his messaging. By gauging audience reactions, he could identify which issues and themes resonated most strongly with voters. This feedback loop allowed Trump to tailor his message and focus on the issues that mattered most to his base. The rallies became a central component of his campaign, helping to build a strong and loyal following. Trump's messaging was focused on a few key themes that appealed to a broad coalition of voters. His slogan, "Make America Great Again," encapsulated a sense of nostalgia and a desire to restore America's perceived lost greatness. This message resonated with working-class Americans who felt left behind by globalization and economic change. Trump's promises to renegotiate trade deals, bring back manufacturing jobs, and secure the border tapped into these sentiments. Another key aspect of Trump's strategy was his ability to frame himself as an outsider and a disruptor. He positioned himself as a political outsider who would challenge the status quo and take on the entrenched interests in Washington. This outsider status was a powerful selling point in an election where many voters were disillusioned with the political establishment. Trump's background as a businessman and his lack of political experience became assets rather than liabilities. Trump's willingness to engage in personal attacks and negative campaigning also set him apart from his opponents. He was unafraid to use harsh rhetoric and attack his rivals directly. This approach was effective in the Republican primary, where Trump quickly dispatched a crowded field of candidates. His attacks on low-energy Jeb Bush, Lion Ted Cruz, and Little Marco Rubio were memorable and helped him consolidate his position as the frontrunner. In the general election, Trump's strategy included a focus on key battleground states. His campaign identified states in the Rust Belt, such as Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, as critical to his victory. These states had been reliably Democratic in previous elections, but Trump saw an opportunity to flip them by appealing to working-class voters. His message of economic nationalism and trade reform resonated strongly in these regions, contributing to his success. Trump's ground game and voter outreach efforts were also important components of his strategy. His campaign invested in data analytics and targeted advertising to identify and mobilize potential supporters. This focus on voter turnout was crucial in a close election, where small margins could make a significant difference. The campaign's efforts to register new voters and ensure high turnout among his base were key factors in his victory. In conclusion, Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign was marked by its innovative strategies and tactical brilliance. His ability to dominate the media, leverage social media, and connect with voters through rallies and targeted messaging were crucial to his success. By positioning himself as an outsider and focusing on key issues that resonated with his base, Trump was able to overcome formidable odds and secure a historic victory. His campaign not only reshaped the political landscape, but also set new standards for how to run a successful presidential campaign in the modern era. Chapter 6: Election Victory. The Road to the White House. Donald Trump's election victory in 2016 was a watershed moment in American politics. His journey to the White House was marked by its unorthodox approach, defiance of political norms, and ability to tap into the electorate's desire for change. This chapter examines the key moments, strategies, and factors that led to Trump's historic win and his ascent to the presidency. The 2016 election was one of the most contentious and closely watched in modern American history. From the beginning, Trump's candidacy was met with skepticism by the political establishment and media pundits. Many viewed him as a long-shot candidate with little chance of securing the Republican nomination, let alone winning the presidency. However, Trump's unconventional approach and ability to connect with voters proved to be a powerful combination. Trump's victory in the Republican primary was the first major milestone on his road to the White House. Despite facing a crowded field of experienced politicians, Trump quickly emerged as the frontrunner. His ability to dominate the media narrative, combined with his direct and often provocative communication style, allowed him to stand out. Trump's willingness to challenge the political establishment and speak to the frustrations of ordinary Americans resonated with a broad coalition of voters. As the primary season progressed, Trump won key contests in states like New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Florida. His victories were driven by strong support from working-class voters and those who felt disillusioned with the political status quo. Trump's message of economic nationalism, promises to bring back manufacturing jobs, and tough stance on immigration struck a chord with these voters. Securing the Republican nomination was a significant achievement, but the general election presented a new set of challenges. Trump's opponent, Hillary Clinton, was a seasoned politician with decades of experience and a well-funded campaign. The general election campaign was marked by intense rhetoric, controversies, and a constant media frenzy. One of the defining moments of the general election was the series of debates between Trump and Clinton. These debates were highly anticipated and watched by millions of Americans. Trump's performance in the debates was characterized by his combative style and willingness to challenge Clinton directly. While his approach was unconventional, it reinforced his image, an outsider willing to take on the political establishment. Trump's campaign strategy in the general election focused on key battleground states that would ultimately determine the outcome. States in the Rust Belt, such as Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, were identified as critical targets. These states had traditionally voted Democratic, but Trump saw an opportunity to flip them by appealing to working-class voters who felt left behind by economic changes. In the weeks leading up to the election, the Trump campaign intensified its efforts in these battleground states. Trump held numerous rallies, often drawing large and enthusiastic crowds. His message of economic revitalization, trade reform, and border security resonated strongly in these regions. The campaign's focus on voter turnout and targeted messaging was crucial in mobilizing supporters and securing votes in key areas. Election night on November 8, 2016, was a dramatic and historic event. As the results came in, it became clear that Trump's unconventional campaign strategy had paid off. He won key battleground states by narrow margins, ultimately securing 304 electoral votes to Clinton's 227. Trump's victory defied the predictions of many political analysts and pollsters who had expected a Clinton win. The election results highlighted several key factors that contributed to Trump's success. First and foremost was his ability to connect with voters on a personal level. His message of change and his promise to make America great again resonated with those who felt left behind by economic globalization and political elitism. Trump's status as a political outsider and successful businessman further bolstered his appeal. Another important factor was Trump's use of social media and direct communication. His Twitter account allowed him to bypass traditional media filters and speak directly to millions of followers. This direct line of communication helped him build a strong and loyal base of supporters who were highly motivated to turn out and vote. Trump's campaign also benefited from a highly effective ground game and voter outreach efforts. The campaign invested in data analytics and targeted advertising to identify and mobilize potential supporters. This focus on voter turnout was crucial in a close election, where small margins could make a significant difference. The campaign's efforts to register new voters and ensure high turnout among his base were key factors in his victory. In the wake of his election victory, Trump faced the monumental task of transitioning from candidate to president. The period between his election and inauguration was marked by the formation of his administration, the selection of key advisors and cabinet members, and the development of policy priorities. Trump's transition team worked to lay the groundwork for his presidency and prepare for the challenges ahead. In conclusion, Donald Trump's election victory in 2016 was the result of a combination of innovative strategies, effective communication, and a deep understanding of the electorate's desires and frustrations. His ability to connect with voters, dominate the media narrative, and focus on key battleground states were crucial to his success. Trump's ascent to the White House marked a transformative moment in American politics, reshaping the political landscape and setting the stage for a new era of leadership. Chapter 7. First 100 Days. Setting the Tone. Donald Trump's first 100 days in office were a whirlwind of activity, marked by bold actions, executive orders, and significant policy initiatives. This chapter examines the key events and decisions that define the early days of the Trump administration and set the tone for his presidency. From the moment he took the oath of office on January 20, 2017, Trump signaled his intention to fulfill his campaign promises and enact significant changes. His inaugural address, delivered on the steps of the Capitol, emphasized themes of national pride, economic revitalization, and a commitment to returning power to the American people. Trump's speech, with its populist and nationalist overtones, set the stage for the actions that would follow. One of Trump's first acts as president was to issue a series of executive orders aimed at delivering on his campaign promises. These executive orders covered a range of issues, from immigration to deregulation. One of the most controversial orders was the travel ban, which temporarily restricted entry to the United States for citizens of several predominantly Muslim countries. The travel ban sparked widespread protests and legal challenges, highlighting the contentious nature of some of Trump's policies. Trump also took swift action on economic issues, aiming to fulfill his promise to boost American manufacturing and job creation. He signed executive orders to expedite the approval of key infrastructure projects, such as the Keystone XL and Dakota Access pipelines. These actions were aimed at stimulating economic growth and creating jobs, particularly in the energy sector. In addition to executive orders, Trump focused on fulfilling his promise to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act (ACA), also known as Obamacare. This effort faced significant challenges, as the ACA had provided healthcare coverage to millions of Americans. Despite intense lobbying and negotiations, the initial attempt to pass a replacement bill in the House of Representatives failed. This setback underscored the complexities and political challenges associated with healthcare reform. Trump's first 100 days also saw significant changes in immigration policy. He directed federal agencies to increase enforcement of immigration laws and prioritize the deportation of undocumented immigrants with criminal records. The administration's focus on immigration enforcement was a key aspect of Trump's campaign platform and remained a central theme of his presidency. Another major initiative during the early days of the Trump administration was tax reform. Trump promised to deliver the largest tax cuts in American history, aimed at stimulating economic growth and benefiting middle-class families. The administration worked with congressional Republicans to develop a comprehensive tax reform plan, which would later become one of Trump's signature legislative achievements. Foreign policy was also a key focus in Trump's first 100 days. He took steps to strengthen relationships with key allies and address ongoing international challenges. Trump's meetings with foreign leaders, such as Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and British Prime Minister Theresa May, emphasized the importance of bilateral relations and economic cooperation. Additionally, Trump authorized a missile strike on a Syrian airbase in response to a chemical weapons attack, signaling a willingness to use military force in response to international crises. Throughout his first 100 days, Trump faced significant opposition and criticism from various quarters. Protests, legal challenges, and intense media scrutiny were constant features of his early presidency. Despite these challenges, Trump remained focused on implementing his agenda and fulfilling his campaign promises. One of the defining features of Trump's early presidency was his use of social media, particularly Twitter, to communicate directly with the American people. His tweets often made headlines and shaped the news cycle, allowing him to bypass traditional media channels and connect with his supporters. This direct communication style was a hallmark of Trump's approach and played a crucial role in maintaining his public presence and influence. In conclusion, Donald Trump's first 100 days in office were marked by bold actions, significant policy initiatives, and the commitment to fulfilling his campaign promises. His use of executive orders, focus on economic and immigration issues, and efforts to repeal and replace the ACA set the tone for his presidency. Despite facing significant opposition and challenges, Trump remained determined to implement his agenda and reshape American politics. The early days of his administration laid the groundwork for the transformative and often contentious presidency that would follow. Chapter 8: Domestic Policy, Economy, Healthcare, and Infrastructure. Donald Trump's domestic policy agenda was centered on revitalizing the American economy, reforming healthcare, and investing in infrastructure. This chapter explores the key initiatives, challenges, and accomplishments of the Trump administration in these critical areas. Economic policy was a central focus of Trump's presidency. From the outset, he promised to stimulate economic growth, create jobs, and boost American manufacturing. One of the most significant legislative achievements of his administration was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, signed into law in December 2017. This comprehensive tax reform package to lower corporate tax rates, provide tax relief to middle-class families, and incentivize business investment. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act reduced the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, one of the largest reductions in U.S. history. It also provided temporary tax cuts for individuals and increased the standard deduction, benefiting many middle-class taxpayers. The administration argued that the tax cuts would spur economic growth, increase wages, and create jobs. While the impact of the tax reform on the overall economy remains debated, it was a significant legislative victory for Trump and congressional Republicans. In addition to tax reform, the Trump administration focused on deregulation as a means of stimulating economic growth. Trump signed executive orders aimed at reducing the regulatory burden on businesses, particularly in the energy and financial sectors. The administration rolled back numerous Obama-era regulations, arguing that deregulation would foster innovation, reduce costs, and create jobs. Critics, however, raised concerns about the potential environmental and consumer protection impacts of deregulation. Healthcare reform was another major domestic policy priority for Trump. His promise to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act (ACA) was a central theme of his campaign. However, efforts to dismantle the ACA face significant challenges. The administration's initial attempt to pass a replacement bill, known as the American Health Care Act (AHCA), failed in the House of Representatives. Subsequent efforts also struggled to gain sufficient support in Congress. Despite these setbacks, the Trump administration achieved a partial repeal of the ACA through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which eliminated the individual mandate penalty. This penalty had required individuals to have health insurance or pay a fine, and its elimination was a significant blow to the ACA's framework. The administration also took executive actions to expand short-term health plans and association health plans, aiming to provide more options for consumers. Infrastructure investment was another key component of Trump's domestic policy agenda. He proposed a comprehensive infrastructure plan to rebuild and modernize America's roads, bridges, airports, and other critical infrastructure. The plan aimed to leverage public-private partnerships and attract private investment to fund infrastructure projects. However, despite initial enthusiasm and bipartisan interest, the plan faced challenges in gaining legislative traction and securing funding. In addition to these major policy areas, the Trump administration addressed a range of other domestic issues, including education, criminal justice reform, and opioid addiction. The administration promoted school choice and sought to expand charter schools and voucher programs. Criminal justice reform efforts culminated in the passage of the First Step Act, a bipartisan bill aimed at reducing recidivism and reforming sentencing laws. The administration also declared the opioid crisis a public health emergency and implemented measures to combat opioid addiction and overdose deaths. Throughout his presidency, Trump's domestic policy initiatives were often met with significant opposition and controversy. His approach to deregulation, healthcare, and immigration, in particular, sparked heated debates and legal challenges. However, his administration remained committed to implementing its policy agenda and delivering on campaign promises. In conclusion, Donald Trump's domestic policy agenda focused on stimulating economic growth, reforming healthcare, and investing in infrastructure. His administration achieved significant legislative victories, including tax reform and criminal justice reform, while facing challenges in areas like healthcare and infrastructure investment. Trump's domestic policy initiatives were characterized by a commitment to deregulation, market-driven solutions, and a focus on boosting American manufacturing and job creation. The impact of these policies continues to be a subject of debate and analysis. Chapter 9: Foreign Policy. Navigating a Complex World. Donald Trump's foreign policy was characterized by a mix of assertiveness, unpredictability, and a focus on America first. This chapter examines the key events, strategies, and challenges that define Trump's approach to international relations and global affairs during his presidency. From the outset, Trump's foreign policy agenda was guided by the principle of America First, which emphasized prioritizing U.S. interests and reducing America's involvement in foreign conflicts and alliances that were perceived as costly or unfair. This approach marked a departure from the more traditional, multilateral foreign policy strategies of previous administrations. One of the defining features of Trump's foreign policy was his approach to trade. Trump was highly critical of existing trade agreements, such as the North American Free Trade Agreement (NAFTA) and the Trans-Pacific Partnership (TPP), arguing that they were detrimental to American workers and industries. Early in his presidency, Trump withdrew the United States from the TPP and renegotiated an AFTA, resulting in the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. The USMCA to modernize trade relations and address issues such as labor standards and intellectual property protections. Trump's trade policy also included a confrontational approach to China. He accused China of unfair trade practices, including intellectual property theft and currency manipulation. The administration imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, leading to a protracted trade war. While the tariffs were intended to pressure China into making concessions, they also had significant economic repercussions for both countries. In addition to trade, Trump's foreign policy was marked by efforts to reshape alliances and international relationships. He called for NATO allies to increase their defense spending and questioned the value of long-standing alliances, arguing that the US was bearing an unfair share of the burden. This stance caused friction with traditional allies, but it also led to increased defense commitments from some NATO members. Trump's approach to North Korea was one of the most high-profile aspects of his foreign policy. After a period of escalating tensions and threats, Trump shifted to a strategy of diplomacy, culminating in historic summits with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. While the summits were groundbreaking and symbolically significant, they did not lead to a comprehensive agreement on denuclearization, and North Korea's nuclear capabilities remained a significant concern. In the Middle East, Trump's foreign policy included a strong alignment with Israel and a hardline stance on Iran. He recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moved the U.S. embassy there, a move that was highly controversial and met with widespread international criticism. The administration also withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal JCPOA and reimposed sanctions on Iran, aiming to pressure Tehran into negotiating a new agreement. These actions heightened tensions in the region and complicated relations with European allies who remained committed to the JCPOA. Trump's administration also brokered several significant agreements in the Middle East, known as the Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab countries, including the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Sudan. These agreements were hailed as a major diplomatic achievement and a step towards greater stability in the region. Throughout his presidency, Trump's foreign policy was characterized by its emphasis on bilateral relationships and transactional diplomacy. He prioritized direct negotiations and deals, often bypassing traditional diplomatic channels and multilateral institutions. This approach was evident in his dealings with allies and adversaries alike, from renegotiating trade agreements to engaging in high-stakes summits with foreign leaders. In conclusion, Donald Trump's foreign policy was marked by a focus on America first, a confrontational approach to trade, and efforts to reshape alliances and international relationships. His administration's actions on trade, NATO, North Korea, and the Middle East were significant and often controversial. While Trump's foreign policy achieved some notable successes, it also faced challenges and criticisms, reflecting the complexities and unpredictability of his approach to global affairs. The legacy of Trump's foreign policy continues to influence U.S. international relations and the global geopolitical landscape. Chapter 10: Judicial Appointments, Shaping the Courts. One of Donald Trump's most enduring legacies is his impact on the federal judiciary. His administration's efforts to appoint a significant number of judges to the federal bench, including 3 Supreme Court justices, have reshaped the American legal landscape for generations to come. This chapter explores Trump's judicial appointments, their significance, and the process behind these crucial decisions. Trump's influence on the judiciary began early in his presidency. Recognizing the importance of the courts in shaping public policy and interpreting the Constitution, the administration in collaboration with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, prioritized judicial appointments. This strategic focus was partly motivated by the desire to counteract what conservatives perceived as judicial activism and to solidify a conservative interpretation of the law. The administration's first major judicial appointment came with the nomination of Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court in January 2017. Gorsuch, a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, was selected to fill the vacancy left by the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. The nomination was contentious, as Senate Republicans had previously refused to consider President Obama's nominee, Merrick Garland, during the 2016 election year. Gorsuch's confirmation, secured after a Senate rule change to eliminate the filibuster for Supreme Court nominations, marked a significant victory for Trump and conservatives. In 2018, Trump nominated Brett Kavanaugh to replace retiring Justice Anthony Kennedy. Kavanaugh's confirmation process was one of the most contentious in recent history, marked by allegations of sexual misconduct and intense political battles. Despite the controversy, Kavanaugh was confirmed by a narrow margin, further solidifying the conservative majority on the Supreme Court. The third and perhaps most consequential appointment came in 2020 with the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett to replace the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Barrett, a judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit and a former clerk for Justice Scalia, was known for her conservative judicial philosophy. Her confirmation, completed just days before the 2020 presidential election, cemented a 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court. In addition to these high-profile Supreme Court appointments, the Trump administration made a significant number of appointments to the lower federal courts. By the end of his term, Trump had appointed over 230 federal judges, including more than 50 to the courts of appeals. These appointments were strategically important, as appellate courts often have the final say in many legal disputes, given that the Supreme Court hears only a small fraction of cases. The process of selecting judicial nominees involved close collaboration with conservative legal organizations, particularly the Federalist Society. This organization, which advocates for a textualist and originalist interpretation of the Constitution, played a key role in vetting and recommending candidates. The administration's reliance on the Federalist Society ensured that nominees were aligned with conservative legal principles and would have a lasting impact on the judiciary. The impact of Trump's judicial appointments extends beyond the ideological shift they represent. The judges appointed during his tenure are generally younger than those appointed by previous administrations, ensuring that their influence will be felt for decades. These judges are expected to shape rulings on a wide range of issues, including reproductive rights, gun control, environmental regulations, and executive power. Critics of Trump's judicial appointments argue that the process was overly politicized, and that many nominees were selected based on their ideological commitments rather than their qualifications. They also contend that the rapid pace of confirmations, particularly in the final months of Trump's presidency, undermined the thorough vetting process typically required for lifetime appointments. Supporters, however, view Trump's judicial appointments as a necessary correction to what they perceive as decades of liberal judicial activism. They argue that the new composition of the courts will ensure a more faithful adherence to the Constitution and the rule of law. In conclusion, Donald Trump's judicial appointments represent one of the most significant and lasting impacts of his presidency. The appointment of 3 Supreme Court justices and a substantial number of federal judges has reshaped the American judiciary, ensuring a conservative influence for generations. The strategic focus on the courts, in collaboration with conservative legal organizations, reflects the administration's commitment to shaping the interpretation of the law in ways that align with its ideological goals. The legacy of these appointments will continue to influence American law and politics for years to come. Chapter 11: Media Relations. The Battle for a Narrative Control. Donald Trump's relationship with the media was one of the defining features of his presidency. His approach to media relations was characterized by confrontation, controversy, and an unprecedented use of social media to communicate directly with the public. This chapter examines Trump's interactions with the media, his strategies for controlling the narrative, and the broader implications for journalism and public discourse. From the outset of his campaign and throughout his presidency, Trump maintained a combative stance towards the media. He frequently referred to major news outlets as fake news and labeled journalists as enemies of the people. This antagonistic relationship was fueled by what Trump perceived as biased and unfair coverage of his administration. His rhetoric resonated with many of his supporters, who shared his distrust of mainstream media. One of the key strategies Trump employed to manage media relations was the use of social media, particularly Twitter. Trump's Twitter account became a central platform for issuing statements, announcing policy decisions, and responding to critics. His tweets often dominated the news cycle and allowed him to communicate directly with millions of followers, bypassing traditional media filters. This direct line of communication was a powerful tool in shaping public perception and maintaining a constant presence in the media landscape. Trump's use of Twitter was marked by its provocative and often controversial content. His tweets ranged from policy announcements to personal attacks on political opponents and media figures. This approach kept him at the center of public attention and ensured that he remained a dominant force in the news cycle. However, it also sparked frequent controversies and criticism, leading to debates about the appropriateness and impact of his social media use. The administration's media strategy also involved efforts to discredit unfavorable coverage and promote supportive media outlets. Trump frequently praised conservative media organizations, such as Fox News, and gave preferential access to journalists and outlets that provided favorable coverage. This selective engagement reinforced his narrative and helped build a loyal media base that echoed his talking points. Press briefings during the Trump administration were often contentious. Press secretaries like Sean Spicer, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and Kayla McEnany engaged in frequent clashes with reporters, defending the administration's actions and challenging critical coverage. These briefings became spectacles in their own right, reflecting the broader adversarial relationship between the administration and the press. Trump's approach to media relations had significant implications for journalism and public discourse. His attacks on the media contributed to a polarized and distrustful environment, where the line between factual reporting and opinion became increasingly blurred. This polarization was evident in the starkly different media landscapes consumed by Trump supporters and his critics, each side relying on sources that reinforce their views. The administration's relationship with the media also raised important questions about the role of the press in a democracy. Critics argued that Trump's attacks on the media undermined the press's role as a check on power and eroded public trust in journalism. Supporters, however, viewed his stance as a necessary challenge to a media establishment they perceived as biased and unaccountable. In the final year of his presidency, Trump's relationship with social media took a dramatic turn. Following the 2020 election and the events leading up to the January 6 Capitol riot, Trump's social media accounts were suspended or banned by major platforms, including Twitter and Facebook. These actions were taken in response to concerns about the potential for inciting violence and the spread of misinformation. The bans marked a significant moment in the ongoing debate about the responsibilities of social media companies and the balance between free speech and public safety. In conclusion, Donald Trump's media relations were a defining aspect of his presidency, characterized by confrontation, controversy, and a strategic use of social media. His approach to the media reshaped public discourse, heightened polarization, and sparked debates about the role and responsibilities of journalism in a democratic society. The legacy of Trump's media strategy continues to influence the relationship between political leaders and the press, as well as the broader landscape of public communication and information. Chapter 12. Impeachments and Legal Battles. Donald Trump's presidency was marked by unprecedented legal challenges and to impeachment proceedings, making him the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice. This chapter explores the circumstances and events surrounding these impeachments, the legal battles faced by Trump and his administration, and the broader implications for American politics and governance. The first impeachment of Donald Trump was initiated by the House of Representatives in December 2019. The charges against him stemmed from a phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, during which Trump allegedly pressured Zelensky to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden. The House charged Trump with abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, arguing that he sought foreign interference in the 2020 election and obstructed the subsequent investigation by refusing to provide documents and witnesses. The impeachment trial in the Senate, held in early 2020, was a highly partisan affair. The House managers presented their case, arguing that Trump's actions constituted a grave abuse of presidential power. Trump's defense team countered that the charges were politically motivated and did not rise to the level of impeachable offenses. Ultimately, the Senate, controlled by Republicans, voted to acquit Trump on both charges, with only one Republican senator, Mitt Romney, voting to convict on the abuse of power charge. The second impeachment of Donald Trump occurred in the final days of his presidency, following the events of January 6, 2021. On that day, a violent mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol, disrupting the certification of the Electoral College results and resulting in significant destruction and loss of life. The House swiftly moved to impeach Trump on a single charge of incitement of insurrection, arguing that his rhetoric and actions leading up to the riots incited the violence and threatened the democratic process. The second impeachment trial in the Senate, held in February 2021 after Trump had left office, was unprecedented. The House managers presented evidence, including video footage and Trump's own words, to argue that he bore responsibility for the Capitol attack. Trump's defense team contended that the trial was unconstitutional since Trump was no longer in office, and that his speech was protected by the First Amendment. The Senate ultimately acquitted Trump again, with a majority of Republicans voting to acquit, though 7 Republican senators joined Democrats in voting to convict. Beyond the impeachments, Trump's presidency was fraught with legal battles and investigations. The administration faced numerous lawsuits and inquiries related to issues such as immigration policies, executive actions, and alleged conflicts of interest. One of the most significant legal challenges was Special Counsel Burt Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election and possible collusion between the Trump campaign and Russian officials. The Mueller investigation, which lasted nearly 2 years, resulted in numerous indictments and convictions of Trump associates, but did not establish a criminal conspiracy between the campaign and Russia. The investigation did, however, outline multiple instances of potential obstruction of justice by Trump, leaving the question of legal accountability to Congress and the public. Trump also faced ongoing investigations into his business practices and finances. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office and the New York State Attorney General launched investigations into allegations of tax fraud, insurance fraud, and other financial crimes. These investigations continued after Trump's presidency and posed potential legal risks for him and his business empire. In conclusion, Donald Trump's presidency was marked by significant legal challenges and to historic impeachment proceedings. These events underscored the contentious and polarized nature of his tenure and raised important questions about presidential accountability and the rule of law. The legal battles and impeachments not only shaped Trump's presidency, but also had lasting implications for American politics and governance, highlighting the complex interplay between law, politics, and the office of the presidency. Chapter 13. Post-Presidency, Influence and Legacy. After leaving office in January 2021, Donald Trump remained a dominant and influential figure in American politics. His post-presidency period has been marked by continued involvement in political affairs, ongoing legal challenges, and efforts to shape his legacy. This chapter explores Trump's activities and influence since leaving the White House, his continued impact on the Republican Party, and the broader implications of his presidency for American politics. Immediately after leaving office, Trump faced a period of political uncertainty and legal challenges. The aftermath of the January 6 Capitol riot and his second impeachment trial significantly impacted his public standing and political prospects. Despite these challenges, Trump maintained a strong base of support among Republican voters and continued to exert considerable influence over the party. One of Trump's primary post-presidency activities has been endorsing and supporting candidates in Republican primaries and elections. His endorsements have often been decisive, helping to elevate candidates who align with his political views and agenda. Trump's involvement in the 2020 midterm elections was particularly notable, as he sought to influence the direction of the Republican Party and promote candidates who embraced his America First policies and rhetoric. Trump also continued to challenge the results of the 2020 election, promoting baseless claims of widespread voter fraud and irregularities. These claims have had a lasting impact on American politics, contributing to ongoing debates about election integrity and efforts to reform voting laws in several states. Trump's rhetoric has fueled a significant portion of the Republican base's distrust in the electoral process, influencing the party's approach to future elections. In addition to his political activities, Trump has faced ongoing legal challenges. Investigations into his business practices and financial dealings have continued, posing potential legal risks for him and his company. These investigations, led by the Manhattan District Attorney and the New York State Attorney General, have scrutinized various aspects of Trump's business operations, including allegations of tax fraud and financial misrepresentation. Trump has also remained active in the media, leveraging his influence and platform to shape public discourse. Although he was banned from major social media platforms following the January 6 riot, he launched his own social media platform, Truth Social, to maintain direct communication with his supporters. This platform has allowed him to continue disseminating his views and mobilizing his base. The broader implications of Trump's presidency and post-presidency are significant. His tenure in office and continued influence have reshaped the Republican Party, leading to a shift towards populism and nationalism. Trump's impact on the party's ideology and political strategy is evident in the candidates and policies promoted by Republican leaders. Trump's presidency also had a profound effect on American political discourse and the norms of presidential conduct. His unconventional style, use of social media, and confrontational approach to the media and political opponents challenged traditional expectations of presidential behavior. This shift has had lasting implications for how political leaders engage with the public and the media. In conclusion, Donald Trump's post-presidency has been marked by continued political involvement, legal challenges, and efforts to shape his legacy. His influence over the Republican Party and American politics remains significant, reflecting the enduring impact of his presidency. The legacy of Trump's tenure and his ongoing activities continue to shape the political landscape, highlighting the complexities and controversies that defined his time in office and his lasting imprint on American politics. Chapter 14. The Trump Legacy, Transformation and Controversy. The legacy of Donald Trump's presidency is a subject of intense debate and analysis. His tenure was marked by significant policy achievements, controversial actions, and profound impacts on American politics and society. This chapter examines the key aspects of Trump's legacy, the transformative changes he brought about, and the controversies that continue to shape his place in history. One of the most notable aspects of Trump's legacy is his impact on the judiciary. As discussed in Chapter 10, his appointments of 3 Supreme Court justices and numerous federal judges have reshaped the judicial landscape. These appointments are likely to influence rulings on critical issues such as abortion, gun rights, and executive power for decades to come. Trump's economic policies also left a significant mark. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, his administration's signature legislative achievement, brought substantial changes to the tax code, benefiting corporations and many middle-class families. His focus on deregulation boosted economic growth and reduced government intervention in the economy. While the long-term effects of these policies are still being debated, they represent a major shift in economic policy. The America First foreign policy approach redefined the United States' role in the world. Trump's administration prioritized national interests, renegotiated trade deals, and took a more unilateral approach to international relations. This shift had both supporters and critics, with some praising the focus on American sovereignty and others warning of a retreat from global leadership. Trump's presidency also had a significant impact on immigration policy. His administration implemented stringent measures to reduce illegal immigration, including the construction of a border wall and the implementation of travel bans. These policies sparked intense debate and legal challenges, reflecting the deep divisions in American society over immigration. The handling of the COVID-19 pandemic was another critical aspect of Trump's legacy. His administration faced criticism for its initial response to the crisis, including mixed messaging and conflicts with public health experts. The pandemic had profound effects on public health, the economy, and daily life, and Trump's handling of it remains a contentious part of his legacy. Trump's approach to the media and public communication was transformative. His use of social media, particularly Twitter, to communicate directly with the public bypassed traditional media channels and reshaped political communication. This approach mobilized his base, but also contributed to polarization and the spread of misinformation. The 2 impeachment proceedings against Trump were historic and highlighted the deep political divisions in the country. The impeachments, though resulting in acquittals, underscored the contentious nature of his presidency and the challenges of presidential accountability. Trump's legacy also includes his impact on the Republican Party. He reshaped the party's identity, moving it towards a populist and nationalist platform. This shift has had lasting effects on the party's policies, leadership, and voter base. In conclusion, the legacy of Donald Trump's presidency is complex and multifaceted. His transformative policies, controversial actions, and profound impact on American politics and society continue to be the subject of intense debate. Whether viewed as a champion of conservative values or a divisive and polarizing figure, Trump's influence on the United States is undeniable. His presidency reshaped the political landscape, and his legacy will be analyzed and debated for years to come. Chapter 15: Reflections on the Trump Era, Lessons and Future Directions. As the United States moves forward from the Trump presidency, it is essential to reflect on the lessons learned and consider the future directions of American politics and governance. This chapter explores the broader implications of the Trump era, the lessons for political leaders and institutions, and the potential paths forward for the country. One of the key lessons from the Trump era is the importance of institutional resilience. The controversies and challenges of Trump's presidency tested the strength and independence of American institutions, including the judiciary, the media, and the electoral system. While these institutions faced significant strain, their ability to withstand political pressure and uphold democratic principles was crucial in maintaining the rule of law and democratic norms. The Trump presidency also highlighted the power and influence of the executive branch. Trump's use of executive orders and his approach to governance underscored the significant authority wielded by the president. This raises important questions about the balance of power between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, and the need for checks and balances to prevent the overreach of any single branch. The role of the media and public communication emerged as a critical area of focus. Trump's use of social media and his confrontational relationship with the press revealed the evolving nature of political communication and the challenges of ensuring accurate and responsible reporting. The spread of misinformation and the polarization of media consumption underscore the need for strategies to promote media literacy and trust in journalism. The polarization and division in American society, exacerbated during the Trump era, present significant challenges for the future. Bridging these divides and fostering a more inclusive and cohesive society will require efforts from political leaders, community organizations, and citizens. Promoting dialogue, understanding, and respect for diverse perspectives is essential for healing and strengthening the democratic fabric of the nation. The Trump presidency also underscored the importance of electoral integrity and public trust in the democratic process. The baseless claims of widespread voter fraud and the subsequent efforts to undermine the 2020 election results highlighted vulnerabilities in the electoral system. Ensuring the security, accessibility, and transparency of elections is crucial for maintaining public confidence in the democratic process. Looking ahead, the future of the Republican Party and its direction will be a significant area of focus. The party's embrace of Trump's populist and nationalist agenda has reshaped its identity and voter base. The party will need to navigate its path forward, balancing the influence of Trump's legacy with the need to address evolving political, social, and economic challenges. The broader implications of the Trump era also extend to global politics and international relations. The shift towards an America-first foreign policy and the redefinition of alliances and international partnerships have lasting effects on global diplomacy. The United States will need to navigate its role on the world stage, balancing national interests with the responsibilities of global leadership. In conclusion, the Trump era provides valuable lessons and reflections for the future of American politics and governance. The importance of institutional resilience, the power of the executive branch, the evolving nature of media and public communication, the challenges of polarization, and the significance of electoral integrity, critical areas for consideration. As the country moves forward, it is essential to build on these lessons, promote democratic values, and work towards a more inclusive, cohesive, and resilient society. The legacy of the Trump presidency will continue to shape American politics, and the path forward will require thoughtful reflection, dialogue, and a commitment to democratic principles. Thanks for watching.